Welcome to another edition of the Jerry Ratcliffe Show podcast version. And uh, this week, we're fortunate to have someone I've known for a few decades. A guy that I immediately liked when he came to Charlottesville and um, have been uh, not only impressed with, but admired the way he's conducted his business and his personal life ever since. And I think he's a true inspiration to anyone in the world of basketball. And I'm talking about former Cavalier Rick Carlisle, now head coach of the Indianapolis Pacers and Indiana Pacers. I'm not sure how they refer to you guys these days up there, but thanks for joining us, Rick, and taking time out.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me on. We do go by the Indiana Pacers.
Okay.
I think there may have been an early version of the of the original NBA team that may have gone by Indianapolis, but it's in the Indianapolis Colts if you follow football.
That's true. Yeah.
For Pacers, it's Indiana, and it's Indiana basketball. So appreciate you having me on, and we're looking forward to I think probably an emotional weekend, coming up for Coach Holland.
Yeah, no question. I was very emotional back when we found out that he had taken a turn for worse and then passed. I become even though coach media relationship during his career here as not only a coach but as an athletic director, but then I got to know him very well and became very close actually after he stopped coaching. Um, we became really close friends, and it was very difficult watching him decline the last few years. And um, it was interesting that up until COVID, someone I'm sure, um, Joe Geek would have a luncheon every 6 weeks here in town that he called the Jim West Doc McHugh Memorial Luncheon. And a lot of guys from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond would get together for a lunch every week. And Coach Allen, when he returned to Charlottesville, would come to that luncheon every week, he and Ann. And the guys would go off into a separate room where we could talk freely, tell a few blue jokes and stuff like that. But it was evident then that uh, he wasn't completely healthy, and then just watching him, uh, like I said, decline over the last couple of years was very tough for all of us who were close to him, and I'm sure for you guys too, who thought so much of him as former players and associates. Um, this should be a special weekend, Rick. What a tribute, celebration of his life. Um, a lot of people at this point know that the event is happening at 2:00 Saturday at John Paul Jones Arena. A lot of people didn't realize until recently that it's free and open to the public, and everyone is invited. And we encourage everyone who was ever touched by Terry Holland and his basketball program to please attend and pay tribute to this great man. And I know you're one of the speakers, Rick. Quite a lineup of people coming in to pay tribute for Coach.
Yeah, it certainly is, and appreciate your efforts in getting the word out. I've been in close contact with Mrs. Holland and their daughters, Kate and Michael. Probably more Ann Michael. She's been more involved in the coordination of this whole thing. But this even if you never knew Terry Holland and were never directly or indirectly touched by him, if you have any curiosity at all about UVA basketball and how it evolved to the point it is today, where this program in 2019 was in a position and executed to win a national championship. It would do you good. It would do you well to come and to find out what this man was all about. He was really the godfather of UVA basketball. He came in the 70s when the program was down. Back in those days, I think Carolina was dominating, and he made progress very quickly. Recruited guys like Mark Ivoroni, Wally Walker, and they won the ACC championship in '76, and that was an enormous deal. Back in those days, you had to win your conference to go to the NCAA. So I think they knocked Carolina off in the championship game, and that was a massive victory for Virginia athletics. And then as the years went on, the program got stronger. Jeff Lamp, Lee Raker, Jeff Jones all came on board, and then of course the big one was Ralph Sampson when he came on board. I think in the fall of '79 or '80, one of the two. And that changed everything. It changed the total perspective of UVA athletics. The Virginia basketball program got immediate national attention. They won the NIT. There were Final Four appearances. And Ralph, the fact that he stayed at Virginia all 4 years, if you really think about the fact that he did that. I mean, the NBA was calling every single year, and he decided that education, family, his family's from Harrisonburg, and they kept very close to him at UVA. He loved the basketball program. I think above all, he really loved Coach Holland. It was a second father to him and Mrs. Holland. And it was a home away from home. Harrisonburg's not that far away, but Ralph really, in my mind, became kind of a defiant symbol of what it means to be committed to a state, a university, the idea of family and education. And for those reasons, he changed my life in ways that I'm still trying to figure out. Just the opportunity to play with him just for 1 year as I transferred in. So Ralph is going to be one of the moderators of this program on Saturday, and he'll do a great job with it. And as we both have said, I expect this to be a very special and very emotional day.
You don't have to look very far to see what kind of impact Terry made on the coaching profession. Just look at the coaching tree, yourself included, Jeff Jones, Dave Odom, Jim Larinaga, Craig Littlepage. There's some others that predated you guys. Seth Greenberg. There have been so many. I don't know if Terry ever gets credit for that, but that's a pretty impressive list of coaches right there.
Yeah, there are others too. Like for instance, Anthony Solomon, who I played with.
Anthony, yes.
Has been a head coach once or twice in the college ranks. More recently, he was Mike Bray's, I think, lead assistant at Notre Dame. Yeah, and the fact that there's not a lot of attention brought to, Terry's coaching tree, Terry's successes, is in large part due to the fact that he was a guy that, by nature, just didn't want to bring a lot of attention to himself. He was a nurturer. He was a teacher. He loved people. He loved bringing people together. He loved to figure out how to make things work. And as I've been in the coaching profession now for well over 30 years, going back to when I started as an assistant, I look at how he ran the operation at UVA. And basketball, when you walked in the door, you knew basketball was like a religion, or in the state of Virginia. But the things that he did to bring people together, to bring our team together, softball games, parties at get-togethers at their home, with Mrs. Holland cooking. And I remember when I came on my visit, Jeff Jones was one of the guys that was taking me around, and he said, wait do you taste Mrs. Holland's sweet tea. It's the best sweet tea of all time. And me coming from the Northeast, I had not even heard of sweet tea. And so there were a lot of things that he did that brought the fan base together, that brought the state closer, to Charlottesville, sort of as the epicenter. And as I look at it, more in a more clear and focused way now, the things that he did are a lot of the things that I learned from, as I try to bring groups of young men together and bring cities together, in the NBA over the years. So I'm very appreciative of the opportunity with him. He was certainly a guy that inspired all of us that ended up getting into coaching.
We are visiting with Indiana Pacers head coach Rick Carlisle, former UVA guard, who'll be one of the speakers at Coach Holland's Memorial this weekend, 2 p.m. JPJ Arena. Public is invited and it's free. Ralph Sampson, as Rick pointed out, will be one of the moderators. Some of the people scheduled to speak are Kentucky head basketball coach John Calipari, Miami head basketball coach Jim Larinaga, fresh off the Final Four, Old Dominion head coach Jeff Jones. Terry reached more than just UVA people. He at East Carolina, Davidson, Ruffin McNeil, and Skip Holtz will be speaking, former East Carolina head football coaches. Big East Commissioner Val Ackerman will participate, along with Davidson College President John Kuykendall. Former players Mark Alberoni, Wally Walker, Jimmy Miller, Bryant Stith, Jeff Lamp, Bobby Stokes, my doctor, Bobby Stokes. Lucky Graves, friend of the UVA program, will be speaking. And lest we not forget, musical entertainment will be provided by someone we all admire, and Bruce Hornsby, former 3-time Grammy Award winner, who I really appreciate his music, and he was one of Coach Holland's favorite artists. I know Rick, you and Bruce have become close over the years as well.
Yeah, we have, and I met him in 1987. I was a novice piano player back in those days. Still am a novice piano player, but I met him in the hallway of the Forum in Los Angeles during the 1987 finals. I was walking down the hall on the event level, and I ran into Bruce Hornsby and Huey Lewis. They were good friends. And if you know the song Jacob's Ladder, that was a song written by Bruce that Huey recorded, and Bruce also recorded it. So he goes, hey, Rick Carlisle. He and I had never met. I said, Bruce, so great to meet you. I said, I'm a novice player. I've actually learned 2 or 3 of your songs. I'm an enormous admirer of your work. So it's a pleasure to meet you, blah, blah, blah. And then we exchanged numbers and stayed in touch. And then over the years, he's been a great inspiration musically to me, but also just the fact that, what he's done in his career. He's been a great innovator in the world of pop music, of jazz, and certain alternative forms of music since. He's always highly, highly critically acclaimed, lives in Williamsburg. To me, I don't know why he wasn't a University of Virginia guy. Seems like it would have made total sense, but
Yeah.
he was a great friend of Terry and Ann Hollins, and Terry was a guy that really loved Bruce's music, and so Bruce will be playing starting at 1:30 on Saturday. So as people walk in, he'll be playing solo piano, and then he'll play as the proceeding is closing. And a lot of people do know this, some don't. Bruce was a heck of a basketball player. I think he had a full scholarship offer to Randolph-Macon back in the day. His two twin sons, Keith and Russell, both terrific collegiate athletes. Russell ran track at Oregon, and Keith played at UNC Asheville, transferred to LSU. And then, he was in our training camp in Dallas a few years ago, had a heck of a training camp, actually had 12 points in the fourth quarter in one of our exhibition games. We beat Oklahoma City at home. He got the game ball and has since had a very successful career and continues to play overseas. So,
I didn't know.
we have that connection, and so it'll be great. It'll be great to have Bruce there and to hear him play. His music is absolutely inspirational.
No question about it. And yeah, I bumped into him at the Friends of Frank Burkhead luncheon back in early March. He was in attendance, and always great to run into Bruce. I know that you have shared the stage with him at least once. Have you done it more than one time?
Yeah, it's been more than once. It's been, I don't know. I don't know how many times it's been. It's been at least half a dozen over the years. And so, and with a guy like that, I mean, you gotta be ready to go, cause he's such a perfectionist. But those kinds of things, like as you go through life and you think about things that inspire the human spirit, that that make you uncomfortable, but when you get in a certain state, allow you to maybe achieve beyond what you thought you might have been able to achieve. Preparing for those opportunities to go on stage and play piano with Bruce and his band. I mean, that ranks up there as some of those great moments. So, it's once again, it'll be great to have him there. He'll play a lot of music that we all will recognize, and probably a few things we won't, but we'll enjoy nonetheless.
I can't imagine the pressure of stepping on stage with Bruce under those conditions. That's got to be tough. It's got to be like coaching in Game 7 of the NBA Finals or something, man. I know you return to Charlottesville from time to time when you can, and I know you were in this part of the country recently when we all said goodbye to Kenton Edlin not too long ago. You and your former teammates from that era, you guys stick pretty close. It seems like, and that's something to be admired, I think.
Yeah, as we all kind of go off and do our thing and have our dreams and try to do what we can to achieve them, you get into this whirlwind lifestyle, and we all do it, in some form or other, whether you're trying to play, trying to coach, trying to do great things in the financial world or some other form of business. And you turn around, before you know it, it's 30 years has gone by. And then Kenton's situation was tragic. He vibrant guy that's still a very young man in his early 60s, and just had the bad luck of having a stroke with a couple of freak things going on physically with him. And I went and visited him last May along with Jimmy Miller and Mrs. Holland. He was at a facility up in Northern Virginia, and it was really tough to see him, but he was slugging it out and battling through. And then it all just got to be too much. And then eventually, I think he passed in December, and his family was able to schedule the memorial service. I'm sure they weren't thinking of me directly, but it was during our All-Star break. So, I came back to Dallas to be with my family during the break, and ended up making a day and a half trip. And it was myself, Tim Mullen, Ralph Sampson, Ricky Stokes, Dan Merrifield was there. There were a couple of other athletes. Rob Archer was there, who was, I think, a track athlete, and a couple of other football players. And we decided to go up on stage that day as a team, and we all, said a few words about our good friend, Kenton. And those things are difficult on the one hand, but they're also a bit healing on the other. And so the hope is that this event on Saturday will be very much the same. I mean, this is going to be historic when you look at the roster of people that are going to be coming together in Terry's honor. The list of all the players that you mentioned, the guys from the coaches, Calipari, Larinaga, Odom, the people from Davidson, the people from East Carolina, Val Ackerman. It will never happen again, under any circumstance, So this is a very special opportunity for all of us, and I would encourage anyone watching this that's, not sure if they have anything to do on Saturday afternoon to come by. You will witness something that will be a once in a lifetime proceeding.
What was it about Terry as a coach that made him special? I know you touched on it a little bit at the beginning about how he wanted to include everybody and make it feel like a family atmosphere. But and I know he probably had a bearing on, I don't know about your decision to become a coach, but did you find yourself throughout your career? I know you had other mentors, but did you find yourself coming back and conferring with Terry or picking his brain about various aspects of coaching throughout your career?
Yeah, I did. And Terry was a very interesting teacher. He was soft-spoken, kind, but firm. He was a man of very little ego, but he knew that he was operating in a world of a lot of egos, but he always was able to cut through the unnecessary nonsense, get to the heart of the matter. He always spoke from a place that was his heart, and he told you things the way that they were. And if you didn't understand the way they were, he would tell you the way that they were and the way that you needed to view it so that you could help our group, our team, get to the place that we needed to get. And so, he's a very special man. There are very, very few people I've met in my life who have done so much for so many and ask for such little in return. And that's one of the reasons I think you're going to see an amazing turnout for this event on Saturday.
Yeah, he always did things for other people and never expected anything in return, and never wanted any publicity for it or anything like that. So many unspoken good deeds that he did that nobody knows about other than the people that it affected. And there's a lot to say about that because particularly in this day and time when everybody's does something kind but expects publicity for it. He never wanted anybody to know that he was doing nice things for people. You're exactly right, and um, I've seen that firsthand, so I know exactly what you're talking about. Just a special guy and a special coach at a special time in Virginia history, and like you said, Rick, a lot of people look at Virginia basketball today with all the guys in that we now have in the NBA and having success, and Virginia, one of the top programs in the ACC over the past 10 years, winning 6 regular season titles, a national championship, a couple of ACC crowns. People all over the country admire Tony Bennett and the way he runs his program. But you can trace a lot of all this success and the arena and the atmosphere and the tradition back to Terry Holland, who got it all started, and a miraculous turnaround. I think he won the ACC tournament in his 3rd season, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 2nd season. Phenomenal that. I was going back and did some research, and he took this job essentially on the spot. Gene Corrigan told me that the late Gene Corrigan told me that he had 3 people in mind for the job, and Terry was one of them. Larry Brown of the Carolina Cougars in the ABA was another, and Dr. Tom Davis. I think he was at Temple or Villanova or somewhere back there. Was the other guy, and Terry was the guy that came up on a Sunday, Saturday or Sunday, and Terry took him or showed him around the rotunda and the lawn, and I don't know if he showed him I guess he showed him around you all and took him to Ernie Earn's place and essentially offered him the job on the spot. And Terry said, "That's it. I mean, you're offering me the job that simply." And Gene said, "If you want it, it's your job. You want it?" And Terry said, "Yeah, I'll want it." And that was that. I mean, it was, you know how coaching searches and stuff are drawn out these days. That was about as simple as it gets. But Virginia's basketball fortunes turned around that quickly on a nice Saturday afternoon, and never to be changed again. But
yeah, I think it's very unlikely that that Virginia ever would have been able to hire a guy like Tony Bennett if Terry Holland hadn't laid the groundwork and been the architect, kind of showing the formula of how to get it done. And our teams at Virginia, when I was there, were very good defensive teams. And Tony has brought that same formula. I mean, they are perennially in the top 3, 4, 5 in the country defensively, and oftentimes in the top 2. And they play a style that is a high efficiency style that puts a great emphasis on basketball IQ and understanding the game and playing the game the right way. And so Jerry, I agree with everything you just said, and I would double down on it. And had there been no Terry Holland, Virginia might have been a Pottersville type of place of basketball. Who knows? Who knows? I mean, those other 2 guys you mentioned are great coaches. They wouldn't have gone wrong with them. But Terry did very special things, and maybe more importantly than the accomplishments of the program are just the way he touched so many people. And that's not just as a coach, but also as an administrator. And so we'll see a lot of the people that he helped out along the way this coming Saturday.
yeah, and the fact that he came here to stay. He wasn't going to use this as a stepping stone. He stayed here for 16, 17 seasons, something like that, and built a home and made Charlottesville a special place in college basketball. So a lot to be admired there too. Rick, thank you so much for taking some time out of your schedule today. We really appreciate it. And can't wait to see you on Saturday and listen to your thoughts about a guy we all admired.
Well, Jerry, thank you for having me, and thank you for your efforts in putting the word out. You know, this will be a very special day. So we'll look forward to seeing everyone.
Thank you. See you soon.